we're still here in the 12th edition of BIOVISION. BIOVISION is 1,200 attendees, more than 150 speakers and experts debating with the attendees. And next to me is Frederick Fenter, the Executive Director of Frontiers. Is that it?
That's correct, yes.
You're the facilitator of the debate that we were talking about now with Mike Hardman and Peter Murray-Rust, which is the future of scientific communication.
Exactly.
A few minutes ago, the Professor Murray-Rust said that he would like to change the law because the documents, the publishing of medicine are not available to farmers, to the simple people, to the civil society. Is that a huge problem now?
Yeah, well, access to the scientific literature is a problem. It's a problem that is slowly being solved. But I think from the point of view of a publisher, we're an open access publisher. So actually we use a commercial model of publishing that actually makes sure that everyone has access to content. So we're very much aligned in terms of what we're trying to achieve with Professor Murray-Rust. But the problem actually goes one step further than that in my point of view. In order for people to optimally benefit from scientific knowledge, we have to make sure that computers can read the information. Computers have to be able to interpret and describe, find kernels of knowledge inside the scientific literature that
data, you mean?
Yeah,
data.
well, not just data and also the results, different ways that science is reported. It's important that we use computers now to get the job done. And with the exploding scientific literature, with almost 2 million articles being published every year, it's no longer humanly possible to keep track of what's happening on the scientific scene. And so in terms of the law, in terms of copyright law, in terms of what needs to be done, Frontiers and other publishers, we've been involved in talking with our colleagues in Brussels to make sure that there are copyright exceptions so that people can actually use their computers to optimally search through the existing scientific literature to get the best outcomes possible.
So once they get it, Professor Peter Murray-Rust was saying that they need also to understand it because it's not a basic English. You have a special Google Translate tool which can be available for farmers, for example?
Well, I'm not quite sure I understand the question, but
I mean, literature, medicine literature, scientific literature is in its very scientific academic terms.
Right.
Do we need to translate it in simple English?
I see what you mean. No, I think my personal point of view is that translating the language so that people who do not have a formal scientific background can understand what's happening. And in the context of these debates of fake news and where an objective scientific result can be treated as just sort of an opinion or just one part of one form of reality, it's very, very important for us to be able to explain to people who do not have a scientific background who they can trust and how they can obtain the knowledge so that they can participate democratically in changing things and improving the situation. Now, one way that we do this at Frontiers, for example, is we have a program called Frontiers for Young Minds, where we actually ask scientists to rewrite their articles so that a 12-year-old can understand it. Cutting-edge results.
So you've been thinking about it.
Right, absolutely. So, and then what we do is actually have 12-year-olds peer review the articles, and so the 12-year-olds explain to the scientists what they need to change so that everybody can understand their results. So I think very clearly we need to think about preparing our content as a publisher for three different audiences, let's say. A scientist needs to inform his or her fellow scientists about their results so that the community can build upon those results. But also, the output has to be prepared so that computers can understand the results. They have to be prepared in a form that computers can actually semantically connect people to content that they're interested in. And then the third channel, in my view, is the public. So we have a responsibility also to prepare the content in a way that the public can understand the
So the
research
job
results.
is getting harder for publisher. That's what you're saying.
Well, it is getting harder, and it's getting very. I think that many of the tools that would improve the situation are already available. It's a question
You
of.
don't have to pay for it.
Well, yes, of course you. Taking the scientific literature, taking a scientific result, validating it, disseminating it, and injecting it into the different channels where it needs to be, costs money, and it can be done in a very cost-effective way. I think as I mentioned, open access publishers have a certain commercial model. That commercial model is more effective than more traditional commercial models, but it's still going to cost something, and everyone has to. People have to participate. People have to. Society has to bear the costs of getting scientific knowledge to the people.
So all this is a matter of cost, because the fight now that is ongoing is the cost, is the availability of those documents. Is that right?
I think that we can be providing the scientific literature into those three channels in a much more cost-effective way.
And last question about now the education, now students, and is it a key for them to have this access to this medicine scientific literature?
Absolutely, absolutely. Every student in medical, technical, or scientific research needs to have access to the work that their colleagues their colleagues are doing in that field almost in real time.
So with Frontiers, you're not building frontiers, but you are.
We have a platform, I think, that allows people to effectively communicate with their peers about the results of their research.
For students?
For students also. It's perfectly open for students. Okay. I mean, they're scientific articles, so students who are graduate students or postdocs, people that are preparing for a career in science, absolutely.
Great. Okay. Thanks a lot. It was very interesting. And we'll see you now at this debate session for the future of scientific communication. Frederick Fenter, merci. Thank you.
Merci à vous.
You. And we'll have now a new invitee on this 12th edition of BIOVISION Forum here in Lyon.